Hi, everybody. My name is Manar Daghash, and joining me are my friends Angel Comas and Amanda Lee. We are nursing students at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and today we're going to be discussing, you probably guessed it, coronavirus! All ducks aside, we are going to be discussing how you can protect yourself and your families from the coronavirus.
This is the most important information that we hope that you'll remember and take with you at the end of our presentation. Some of those would be definitions related to coronavirus, what the signs and symptoms of coronavirus are so that you can catch them early and go to the doctor and get help if you need it. We want you to understand at least three methods of how to prevent spreading and catching the coronavirus. We want you to understand the importance of social distancing, why we're doing it, and why we're quarantining, and we want you to understand when and how to wear a mask.
Alright, so to get us started, we're going to go over some important definitions. That way, if they're mentioned throughout this presentation, you can understand what they mean and you'll have a better understanding of the subject overall. So the first word we're going to define is pandemic, and this whole COVID-19 situation is considered a pandemic. And a pandemic is when a disease is spread from person to person throughout the world. So as we know, in the case of COVID-19, it originated in Wuhan, China, and then kind of spread throughout the globe. The next word we're going to go over is quarantine, which hopefully you are all doing with your families. Quarantine is the keeping of a person, animal, or thing away from others to stop a disease from spreading. So the hope is if everyone's staying inside and avoiding grocery stores, outside, or non-essential travel, then the disease will spread at a slower pace. The next word we're going to go over is social distancing. Social distancing is having distance between people to lower the amount of times people come into physical contact with each other and spread disease. So if you've been to a grocery store lately, you'll notice that they have like little tape or ticks on the ground. That way people try to stay at least 6 feet away from each other. Virus. The coronavirus, as is in the word, is tiny particles that are smaller than germs and can cause illness and cannot be cured by medication. So a lot of people ask, why can't you just give that person medicine and the sickness will go away? A virus will enter your body similarly to the flu, and the body fights it on its own. It's not like other sicknesses, like a bacteria where you can give a medication and then that can go away. And then the next word is coronavirus, which we have to go into a little bit more in depth. So many people think that a coronavirus is new, that this COVID-19 is the first time a coronavirus has ever existed. But a coronavirus is a type of virus that we've seen before, but not to the extent that we have seen in COVID-19. So like I mentioned before, coronaviruses are just a category of viruses. COVID-19 falls under the category of a coronavirus. There's a 19 after coronavirus because 2019 was the year that the COVID-19 first emerged. So it is important to recognize that you can have the coronavirus without showing any symptoms. So we'll discuss what the symptoms are in a few slides, but you can feel completely normal and be carrying the virus and could potentially give it to other people. That's one of the reasons this virus is really easy to spread, and it's another reason it's so important for you to stay indoors, because if you go out and you say, hey, I'm feeling fine, you could actually be carrying the virus and spread it to other people. So we want to give you guys a fun way to kind of remember what the coronavirus is, how it spreads, and that way you guys don't have to hear us talking for too long. So here's a video we're going to play to explain all of those things.
This is Dr. Eileen Marty. She's an expert in viruses. She explains that there are many coronaviruses, and when looked at under a microscope, have spikes that look like crowns, one a king or queen would wear. This specific coronavirus that people are worried about is called COVID-19, and it can be dangerous. Dr. Marty is worried because the virus can make people very sick, and older people with health problems are likely to get even more sick if infected. So how does it make people sick? This virus can spread within communities from person-to-person contact and through surfaces that people touch with their hands. Most people that get sick with this virus have a cough, a high temperature, and they might even have trouble breathing. So what can we do to help stop the virus? Dr. Marty encourages you to take these 4 simple steps to stay safe. 1. Wash your hands regularly with soap while you sing the ABCs or birthday song. 2. Try not to touch your face. This means no rubbing your eyes or putting your fingers in your mouth. This is to stop the virus from entering your body and making you sick. 3. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue when you cough or sneeze and throw them in a bin. 4. Stay away from crowded places like playgrounds or amusement parks. Stay at home and play. Dr. Marty believes that if everyone does their part, we can help stop the virus from making more people sick.
The 3 most common signs and symptoms of coronavirus that every medical professional will screen you for are fever, dry cough, and trouble breathing. So if fever is anything 100 degrees Fahrenheit and above, dry cough means that you're coughing but you don't have a lot of phlegm or mucus coming out, and then trouble breathing. There's some other signs and symptoms that you might or might not have. Loss of smell and taste is a common one, and that's supposed to be a pretty early symptom. A sore throat, tiredness, achiness, or a runny nose. So things that you can do to prevent getting coronavirus or spreading it around. Avoid touching anything in public with your bare hands if you can avoid it. If you have to open doors, try to see if you can use your elbow, your arm, or your feet to kind of push the door open. If you're in an elevator or at a crosswalk and you need to push buttons, use a tissue as a barrier. Or you can use a pen. You could use your, part of the bottom part of your jacket. Basically anything but your hands. Avoid crowded places, as you know. If you're, going on a walk, that's totally fine, but make sure that you're going at a time when not a lot of people go. So maybe you can go earlier in the morning, before, 4 p.m. when a lot of people get off work. And then if you have to take the train or the bus, I know some people don't have a choice. Just make sure that you take the seat that is less crowded than other options, and make sure that when you get home that you change out of your outside clothes into clean, comfortable home clothes, and make sure to keep those clothes separate because coronavirus could spread that way too. You don't know who's been sitting in that seat, and so you just want to be extra sure. And the same goes for Uber rides too. And then lastly, I know this can be hard. I love hugs, but at this time it's really important to avoid hugs and kisses with your family members too, because that's a way you could get it, or you could give it to somebody. Sleep separately if you can, and if you don't have that option, then at least try to make sure that you both are using your own pillows and pillowcases, and you make sure that's your designated pillowcase, and sleep in opposite directions, turned away from each other. And don't share food or drinks. Use your own utensils, your own cups, and your own plates.
So you guys are probably sick of hearing this from your parents or from TV or from YouTube or wherever you're watching, but you really, really need to wash your hands. And the reality is, even though we've been taught how to wash our hands and we wash our hands multiple times a day, many of us don't wash our hands correctly. So we're going to show you this really catchy video using songs that you guys probably know that are going to teach you guys how to properly wash your hands and avoid getting these illnesses and infections. Before we play the video, it's important to know when you should be washing your hands. So if you've left the house, it's really important to wash your hands as soon as you get home. Make sure you wash your hands before or after you eat anything or touch any food. It's also important, it's not listed, but to make sure you wash your hands before you touch your face or touch yourself, especially if you've been outside and then changed your clothes. It's really important to wash your clothes and your hands. It's also really important to clean your phone, because a lot of times without realizing it, we're touching our phones with our dirty hands and then putting them in our pockets, and then once we've washed our hands, we go back and touch our dirty phones. So those are just some of the most important times you should be washing your hands. And then now we're going to play this video for you guys. So you guys are probably sick of hearing.
We need good hygiene to keep living. Lather up for 20 whole seconds and you kill it. Gotta make time to the germs, don't keep winning. We need good hygiene. Mama said to me every day, wash your hands and don't touch your face. Hand sanitizer, soap and hot water after everything. When you do anything, so you're a tough guy, like to touch the mug guy, like to keep your palms dry, cough into your hands guy. I'm the clean type, like to see it clean tight, trust the CDC type, scrub the surface sheet type. I'm the bath guy. Duh. Now watch it drip. Now you wait. Now watch it drip. Now you wait. Okay. Don't touch your face. Don't touch your face. Don't touch your face. Don't touch your face. Now watch it drip. Now you wait. Now watch it drip. Now you wait. Watch me do. Catch that sneeze, bro. Shouldn't use your hands, better in that sleeve though. If you got a cough, catch it in your elbow. No shaking hands, we can wait for hello. Don't go out, bro. We don't wanna spread any more disease, so we should follow everything the CDC knows. You'll be feeling better in a couple weeks, though. I mean, I hope so. I have a hands, I have a soap. Soapy hands. You just got home late and got cooking on your brain. You can save the day if you wash the germs away. Cause the water's gonna spray for 20 seconds while you wait, baby. Then you're gonna shake. Shake it off. Germs like you don't belong on guys like me. I'm gonna wash my hands, I'm gonna keep them clean, yeah. Germs like you don't belong on guys like me. I'm gonna stop the spread of COVID-19, yeah. This soap just like gold, that hot water-based combo. This ain't for the mad germs, them sad germs, that bad disease. Soap hits you, hallelujah. Cause unclean phone gon' give it to you. Cause unclean phone gon' give it to you. Cause unclean phone gon' give it to you. Bad bugs leap out the squash. Don't believe it, just watch. Ain't working nothing bad, but I'm feeling like a sack. Yum, time to wash up, gonna make myself some mags. Now you know I'm single bound, 20-second count, that's round. Hot water, soap, rinse, lather, and repeat. Now, can nobody stop this scrubbing? You can't stop this scrub. Yeah, I'm gonna take my hands to a warm-sink flow. I'm gonna wash till my fingers glow. I'm gonna take my hands to a warm-sink bowl. I'm gonna wash so these phalanges go. Wash your hands to do-do-do-do-do. Wash your hands to do-do-do-do-do. Wash your hands to do-do-do-do-do. Wash your hands. No, but seriously.
So you've probably seen people on the streets wearing masks. Some people do, some people don't. And you're probably wondering, are they sick? Why are they doing that? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So because you can have coronavirus and not know it because you don't, it takes up to 2 weeks before you can feel symptoms. But in that 2-week period, it can still spread to other people. It's really important to wear a mask when you're out in public for that reason, just to prevent, if you have to cough or even talking or breathing, there can be particles that come out and other people can breathe that in that way. So that's why people are wearing masks. It's to protect those around you if you happen to have coronavirus and you don't know. So it's important to wear it every time you leave the house. And right now, fabric masks are recommended by the CDC, and you can make it at home, which I'll talk about in the next slide. But this video is just comparing how airflow is when you're wearing a mask and when you're not. And as you can see on the person on the left without the mask, air travels pretty far when there's no barrier. So that's why it's really important. This is just a video to show that you can make a mask without going to the store if you have rubber bands and if you have hair ties, if you have bandanas, or really any kind of cloth that you can cut out. If you have old bed sheets or something, you can create your own mask. So I'll let you watch that video.
Okay, I've got a regular size bandana. Fold one half to the center, then fold the second half to the center. Turn the whole thing over. Fold one half to the center. Fold the second half to the center. Add a rubber band to one side. And add a rubber band to the second side. Turn it over again. Fold this to the middle, and fold this to the middle. And you could even tuck one of these inside the other. And you have a homemade DIY mask with no sewing.
So you might be asking yourself, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm bored, like I don't want to stay at home anymore, which I completely understand. It can be really frustrating to be away from your friends and be bored at home. But the sooner and the quicker we follow the guidelines we're supposed to and stay at home and social distance, hopefully the sooner we'll be over this virus and we can go back to our normal lives. And there are so many other reasons that it's so important for you to social distance and quarantine. If you can see from this graph that's on the screen here, social distancing slows the spread of the disease, so less people get it in a longer period of time. We protect ourselves, our families, and our loved ones. So although you may be healthy, you may give it to a friend or someone who has a person with health conditions or somebody elderly in their home who maybe won't recover from it as quickly or as easily as you will. We will not overwhelm hospitals and healthcare workers. I'm sure you've seen on the media how much nurses and doctors are being overworked along with other medical staff. And there's only so many beds and materials in hospitals. So by so many people having the disease, we're kind of overwhelming hospitals so that there's not enough resources and not enough beds for us to take care of them. So by quarantining ourselves and having social distancing, we kind of elongate and there are less people in the hospital at one time, and they're kind of flooding in at a normal pace so that we can keep up at the hospital with the patients that are coming in. So you can kind of see that in the graph here. And it allows more time so that we can develop treatments to help people who have the disease and make a vaccination so that when somebody does get infected, it's not as hard as on their bodies as it would be without a vaccine. So it's really, really important that you guys get your facts straight. So I'm sure many of you may have heard rumors or facts about the virus from either a friend or family or social media, whether it be Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is. And they may not always be true. So you want to make sure that you're always using credible and reliable sources. This virus is one of the first of its kind, and so new information is emerging every single day, and situations are changing every single day. So it's important for us to kind of keep up with the situation, but in doing so, we want to use very legitimate and reliable sources. So some of these sources are the Center for Disease Control, or the CDC, which is probably the most common. I think if you've ever turned on the news, this is probably one of the places you've heard the most, the CDC. The World Health Organization is another one, which is a global organization. Your local state or city website. So if you go, for example, on the Illinois state website, or more specifically your city, like Chicago, they'll have updated and reliable information on COVID-19 that's more specific to where you live. You want to make sure to check information that is told to you or that you see on social media before you spread that information. So sometimes you hear something really scary or really cool or really whatever it is, just all together, not just specifically to COVID-19, and you immediately want to share that information. But I would recommend that you always look up that information from a valid source to make sure it's true before you go on to spread that information.
So now I'm just going to talk about the flyer that we've created for you and your family and your community. We have an English version and a Spanish version, and it's just a reminder to help you stay aware of the signs and symptoms and ways that you can protect yourself. And we recommend that you keep it somewhere that you and your family often pass by, just so that you can use it as a reminder and everyone can stay aware. So after all of this information that you've learned, we hope that you come to the conclusion that you have the ability to make a huge difference. Each and every one of you have a big role in, how this virus plays out, and we hope that you choose to protect your loved ones, to protect your friends, and to protect your communities from getting it. And by following these rules and by staying home and following the CDC guidelines, because we're all a team here, everybody in the world, really, to prevent this from spreading further. And it's up to us to try to fight it. And in order to do that, we have to stay home. And it's these little things that will really, really make a difference on all of us. So try to encourage your friends, encourage your family to stay home and follow these rules too. Now that you guys are experts, please pass this information along and, try to hold everybody accountable so that, we can start going back to our normal lives once the virus is over. Thank you for taking your time to learn about it and listen to us. And we hope maybe one day we can meet you in person. Thank you.